Game shows have been a staple of television since its earliest days. Programs like these are generally efficient to produce, easy to market, and most importantly, are enjoyable to watch no matter your age, sex, race, or religion. They make for excellent mental escapes when you're tired of watching the depressing, never-ending news cycle. Game shows have certainly seen ups and downs through the years, but the one thing that's always maintained a stronghold are solid, relatable, passionate hosts. The host is the face of the show, and in many ways are just as important as the game itself. So today I will be presenting to you a very special list that has been in the works for quite some time. Buckle up for the long haul because here we go with the top 100 game show hosts of all time. First off, some ground rules. Number 1, episodic game shows only. For the purposes of this list, only episodic game shows will count. Thus, hosts only known for their work on season-long reality-style programs such as Allison Sweeney, Tyra Banks, and Tila Tequila will not be included on this list. But even if she did qualify, Tila Tequila would not appear on this list. Number 2, no regional or local hosts. Hosts known to a smaller geographic area will be excluded. This list is going to consist of nationally recognized shows appearing on network, cable, or syndication. So local celebrities such as Mac McGarry, who hosted It's Academic for 50 straight years in the Baltimore and Washington, D.C. markets, will be excluded from this list. Rule number 3, international hosts will be accepted. Talents born outside of the United States will be on this list. However, their work needs to be primarily focused in the United States. As an example, Ann Robinson may be the famed host of The Weakest Link, but her hosting duties in the United States were very short-lived compared to the UK, thus will not count towards this list. In general, there are no specific metrics used to determine the rankings. However, longevity, popularity, as well as on-air and off-air behavior will all go towards determining where each host falls in. Even hosts nowadays considered persona non grata will be considered if their resume is still impressive enough. So someone like Bill Cosby could still make this list. But I'll save you the time. He didn't. As an overall disclaimer, each entrant will consist of a small biography and a few shows that they hosted. Not every show will be acknowledged, but these are merely summaries. Do let me know if I left off any major names and I might make an addendum in the near future, or quite possibly they already appeared on my top 10 WTF game shows list available right here on this channel. Alright, I think we've had enough talk. It's time for the main event! First off, a special Governor's Award, the hosts of ABC Fun and Games Night. These hosts are being lumped together in one category because while, yes, they are technically hosts, they were generally selected for their status as a celebrity, not for being known as game show hosts. Since I wanted this list to focus on celebrities known more so for their hosting abilities, Alec Baldwin, Elizabeth Banks, Anthony Anderson, among many others, will get their own list sometime later. And now an honorable mention, Jackie Gleason. The comedy legend's stint as a game show host lasted for one day as the star of 1961's You're in the Picture. However, the show is considered to be one of the worst flops in television history. He spent the entire second episode hilariously apologizing for the first episode, referring to the failed show as an H-bomb made to look like a 2-inch salute. Thus, Jackie Gleason was a legendary game show host for all the wrong reasons. And now, the main list. Number 100, Betty White. Let's start with a bang. Television icon Betty White had a Hall of Fame career that spanned 9 decades. Better known as a guest on many game shows, she only had one very small stint as a host. In 1983, she hosted Just Men, a show that only ran for 3 short months. Although very short-lived, Betty White won an Emmy for her role, because of course she would. Number 99, John Michael Higgins. The incredibly talented actor known for his hilarious roles in the Christopher Guest documentaries, Higgins was the host of America Says from 2018 to 2022. Number 98, Larry Anderson. The actor and magician has had a long career on both television and film. He starred in a short-lived remake of Truth or Consequences, as well as hosted Trivia Trap on GSN in the 1990s. Number 97, Adam Wade. The popular singer hosted a show named Musical Chairs, which aired on CBS for 95 episodes in 1975. It is notable that with CBS hiring Wade, he became the first African American to host a game show of any kind. Number 96, LeVar Burton. The star of Roots, the host of Reading Rainbow, and key player on Star Trek The Next Generation, the acting legend, after a stellar tryout with Jeopardy, finally got to host his first game show, Trivial Pursuit, in 2024. Welcome to the game show world, LeVar. Number 95, Ken Jennings. The sole host of Jeopardy officially since 2023, Jennings is known mostly as his time as a contestant, winning 74 consecutive games and various tournaments, particularly 2020's Greatest of All Time tournament, where he defeated Brad Rutter and James Holzhauer. Number 94, George Gray. Best known today as the jovial fourth full-time announcer in Price is Right history, Gray started as a host back in the 90s with GSN's Extreme Gong. He also hosted the syndicated version of The Weakest Link, where he came off as kind of a total jerk as opposed to the happy face of daytime TV he is now. Number 93, Bob Hilton. The well-experienced and beloved announcer also served as a host for a few shows including The Guinness Game, Truth or Consequences, and Let's Make a Deal. Hilton had auditioned to replace Johnny Olson on The Price is Right after his death, a role that was eventually taken by Rod Roddy. Number 92, Gene Wood. Known much more as one of the greatest announcers of all time, Wood does have experience hosting shows in the 1970s, including the short-lived game shows Anything You Can Do, and one of the many versions of the classic show Beat the Clock. Number 91, DeRay Davis. The stand-up comedian and actor hosted Mind of a Man on GSN, as well as a relaunch of Hip Hop Squares on VH1. Outside of game shows, he's appeared on Reno 911, BET's Comic View, as well as the thoroughly underrated Damon Wayans sitcom My Wife and Kids. Number 90, Louis Anderson. After a 4-year hiatus, Family Feud returned in 1999 with a completely new design and new music, as well as a new host, with the comedian and Life with Louis star hosting the show for 3 years. Today, he might be best remembered for his role in the FX series Baskets. Number 89, Arlene Francis. One of the female pioneers of game shows, Arlene Francis hosted Blind Date, not to be confused with the early 2000s dating show, from 1949 to 1952 on ABC, NBC, and the Dumont Network. She also made a name having appeared on countless other game shows as a guest. Number 88, Bill Raftery. Before his criminally short stints hosting Card Sharks and Blockbusters in the late 1980s, the comedian was one of the many hosts of the wildly popular NBC series Real People. Outside of television, Raftery was both a US Army MP as well as a butcher. So yeah, don't mess with this guy. Number 87, Jeff Probst. Although much better known today as the longtime host of the reality competition series Survivor, which wouldn't qualify him as highly on this particular list, Probst also hosted Rock and Roll Jeopardy for 100 episodes spanning 4 seasons. Number 86, Steve Allen. The hilarious former host of The Tonight Show was at the helm of I've Got a Secret from 1964 to 1967. Like with Betty White, hosting was a very small portion of his career, which in its entirety spanned 6 decades. Number 85, Greg Lee. Lee was the host of the short-lived PBS series Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? The children's game show essentially made learning about geography more fun than ever imaginable. Number 84, Bill Dwyer. The last comic standing contestant hosted 5 seasons of BattleBots on Comedy Central, as well as several shows on GSN during the 2000s, including Extreme Dodgeball and a reboot of I've Got a Secret with a twist. Number 83, Richard Karn. Known for his role as Al Borland on Home Improvement, Richard Karn is one of the unsung heroes of game shows, hosting Family Feud for 4 solid years between 2002 and 2006, and then co-hosted Bingo America in 2008 with Diane Mazzota. Number 82, Chris Harrison. Excluding all of his duties hosting The Bachelor and its various versions, Harrison was also the final host of the syndicated version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, hosting the show from 2015 until its finale in 2019. Number 81, Jeff Sutphin. Sutphin, a former producer, hosted 3 seasons of Brain Surge as well as a revival of Figure It Out on Nickelodeon. Concurrently, in what seems to be quite a rarity with game show hosts in the 2010s, ABC bucked the trend of hiring established actors and instead hired him to host the short-lived but highly entertaining 101 Ways to Leave a Game Show. Number 80, Joey Fatone. Fatone has hosted The Singing Bee, The Singing Office, as well as GSN's Common Knowledge. Also, he was the announcer for Family Feud for several years. But let's be real, none of these facts can hold a candle anywhere close to his real resume, one of the 5 members of the late 90s boy band NSYNC. Number 79, Chuck Barris. The original host of The Gong Show, Barris is much more noted for his creations and work behind the camera, having been executive producer of classic shows like The Newlywed Game and The Dating Game. But he was also the creator of the short-lived disaster Three's a Crowd. Number 78, Michael Strahan. The prolific television personality has been the host of the $100,000 Pyramid since 2016 on ABC. Between Good Morning America, Live with Kelly and Michael, his clothing line, and his charity work, it's almost easy to forget what a great defensive end he was, having his number retired by the New York Giants after spending his entire 15-year career there. Number 77, Johnny Carson. The television legend, known for his role as the longtime host of The Tonight Show, also hosted the game show Who Do You Trust, originally named Do You Trust Your Wife, from 1957 to 1962. As the show's second narrator, this is where Ed McMahon began working with Carson, who followed him over to The Tonight Show to be his sidekick, and the rest is history. Number 76, John Davidson. Talented on many levels as an actor, singer, and performer, Davidson may very well have been an inescapable presence during the late 1980s and early 1990s as he hosted the first major revival of Hollywood Squares, as well as the host of $100,000 Pyramid. Number 75, Melissa Peterman. The prolific television actor and common celebrity guest of many other games has hosted several of her own, most notably The Singing Bee, which started on NBC, and Bet on Your Baby, the game where kids compete to win a college fund. Number 74, Tom Bergeron. Although probably known most for his years of hosting Dancing with the Stars, Bergeron was the host of the 1998 remake of Hollywood Squares produced by Whoopi Goldberg and later Henry Winkler and Michael Levitt. While the show changed on many levels, Bergeron was the fearless captain from first to last. Number 73, Hal March. One of television's pioneers, March was the host of the $64,000 Question before falling victim to the quiz show scandals of the 1950s. He was set for a career renaissance in 1969 with the Ralph Andrews produced show It's Your Bet, but died of lung cancer shortly before production. Number 72, Ken Ober. Ober hosted the thoroughly underrated but dated MTV game show Remote Control for 5 seasons in the 1980s and 90s. Ober also hosted a remake of Perfect Match, Make Me Laugh, and the USA series Smush. He also appeared in several mid-90s Blues Traveler videos. Number 71, Ben Stein. Likely most famous for his hilariously monotone speech patterns, Stein is also a well-known lawyer and political columnist. The peak of his entertainment career occurred in the 1980s and 1990s when he appeared in, well, almost everything, likely leading to his own game show Win Ben Stein's Money that lasted for 6 seasons on Comedy Central. Number 70, Mark L. Wahlberg. Not to be confused with the Funky Bunch, Mark L. Wahlberg was known for hosting many short-lived series including The Big Date, The Moment of Truth, and one of my favorite games of the 2000s, Russian Roulette. Today he can be seen hosting The Price is Right Live and one of my least favorite shows, Temptation Island. Number 69, Joe Rogan. In addition to his TV career, work with UFC, and that podcast you may have heard of, Rogan hosted over 150 episodes of Fear Factor between 2001 and 2012. Arguably one of the most polarizing television shows of any kind, Fear Factor is certainly going to be remembered for its bizarre, upsetting, and downright disgusting stunts. Bon appetit! Number 68, Mike Darrow. The popular Canadian DJ and announcer hosted several shows in the United States including Dream House in the 1960s, the first season of the $128,000 Question, and Jackpot on the USA Network. He also represented Toronto as part of the MDA Labor Day Telethon. Number 67, Joe Garagiola. The former MLB catcher who won a World Series ring with the St. Louis Cardinals enjoyed a fine post-baseball career hosting shows such as He Said, She Said, Sale of the Century, and To Tell the Truth, as well as his many appearances as a guest panelist. Number 66, Mike Adamle. Spotlighting another former athlete, the NFL running back might be best known today for his mercifully short stint with the WWE in 2008, but where he would truly shine is his 7 seasons as the play-by-play commentator and host of American Gladiators, where he worked with other NFL legends including Joe Theismann, Todd Christensen, and Larry Zonka. Number 65, John O'Hurley. The distinguished actor with the voice of gold got his start in game shows hosting To Tell the Truth in 2000, and then proceeded to host Family Feud for 4 years, replacing Richard Karn in 2006. He also hosted Secret Talents of the Stars, which was infamously canceled after only 1 episode. Number 64, Ray Combs. The stand-up comedian and former furniture salesman was selected to host the second syndicated version of Family Feud from 1988 to 1994. He also hosted the new Family Challenge on the Family Channel. Sadly, Combs took his own life in 1996, a stark reminder that celebrities and public figures are real people who have real problems as well. Number 63, Jed Allen. 7 seasons of Celebrity Bowling were spearheaded by Allen, who also had many television acting credits over his 6 decades of work. He has starred on countless soaps as well, including Days of Our Lives, Port Charles, and Santa Barbara. Number 62, Frank Nicotero. The stand-up comedian hosted 5 seasons of the show Street Smarts from 2000 to 2005. In 2011, he also hosted a game show version of the popular board game The Game of Life, as well as the CMT game shows Pontoon Payday and Win, Lose, or Pawn. Number 61, Jim Peck. The television and radio personality and regular fill-in for Joker's Wild in the 1980s might be best remembered for his role as the host of the infamous short-lived Three's a Crowd, a show in which a man is paired with both his wife and his secretary to find out who knew him best. Number 60, John Anderson and John Henson. This is a joint entry due to their incredible chemistry during the original version of Wipeout, which ran on ABC. Anderson's veteran sports analysis and Henson's comedic timing created one of the best hosting pairings on TV at that time, and made an already enjoyable show that much more enjoyable. Number 59, Jack Bailey. The former vaudevillian hosted Truth or Consequences briefly in the 1950s, but might be best known as the host of the pageant game show Queen for a Day, a popular feel-good show where the audience decides which lucky lady gets to be given everything she's ever wanted. Number 58, Larry Blyden. The Broadway star and early television actor hosted several game shows including Personality, You're Putting Me On, and a syndicated version of What's My Line. He was set to host Show-Offs on ABC in 1975, but died a few weeks before the show's premiere. Number 57, Brooke Burns. As a former Baywatch actor, Burns was everywhere in the early 2000s, hosting an array of shows, including the heavily underrated Dog Eat Dog and The Chase, as well as appearing as a guest on To Tell the Truth, Drop Dead Diva, and Average Joe Hawaii. Number 56, Jeff Foxworthy. You might be a redneck if you are a fan of one of the funniest stand-up comics of the 1990s and 2000s. In addition to being a blue-collar comedy tour legend, Foxworthy is essentially synonymous with the popular series Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, as well as the GSN series The American Bible Challenge. Number 55, Wayne Brady. The breakout star of Whose Line Is It Anyway has hosted Let's Make a Deal on CBS Daytime since 2009, which is a feat in and of itself. But what makes this special is that this version of the perennial game show replaced the once popular soap opera Guiding Light, which had been canceled after 57 years on television, not even including its years on radio. Number 54, Drew Carey. The stand-up comedian and author has hosted The Price is Right for 15 years as the show maintains its stronghold as the #1 show of any genre on daytime television. He also hosted The Power of 10 in 2007, as well as the US version of the popular 90s improvisation show Whose Line Is It Anyway? Number 53, Ryan Seacrest. The second coming of Dick Clark in many regards, Seacrest is known for hosting several standalone game shows including Gladiators 2000, American Juniors, and the Million Second Quiz. He is of course most well known for his years hosting the legendary American Idol on Fox and later ABC, and has been the host of Wheel of Fortune since 2024. Number 52, Jack Clark. Famous for announcing shows such as Password and Wheel of Fortune, Clark also appeared as a host for his own shows including Dealer's Choice and The Crosswits. He was also a favorite selection to host various pilot episodes, but few of which saw a full production schedule. Number 51, Michael Berger. The host of Straight to the Heart and the later host of the New Family Challenge, Berger might be best known for hosting the very short-lived and somewhat disastrous Match Game 1998 revival. He also hosted a daytime talk show on ABC named Mike and Maddie, which 1 year after its cancellation was eventually replaced by The View in 1997. Number 50, Jan Murray. The vaudeville and Borscht Bell comedian has hosted several different shows including the original Blind Date, $1 a Second, and Treasure Hunt, as well as a panelist for many, many others. Audiences my age or slightly older might remember him as the vendor in History of the World Part 1, who had absolutely nothing for sale. Number 49, Ben Bailey. The host of Cash Cab for 13 seasons, Bailey also got to host the short-lived Who's Still Standing, where ironically enough got to stand on stage as opposed to sitting behind the wheel of a taxi and driving his contestants. The imposing figure started as a bouncer at the Comedy Store who turned out to be funny, and as they say, the rest is history. Number 48, Todd Newton. The radio DJ turned TV personality has maintained a steady round of hosting duties, including shows like Hollywood Showdown, Family Game Night, and Whammy, the all-new Press Your Luck. He's also hosted live versions of The Price is Right and the podcast The Host with the Most. Number 47, Mike Wallace. The famed reporter known mostly for his work on 60 Minutes was a prolific television star prior to this, hosting many game shows in the 1950s including Majority Rules, Who's the Boss, The Big Surprise, and Who Pays. Number 46, Mike Stokey. We're going back to the 1940s for this one. Stokey hosted Pantomime Quiz and the later version of Stump the Stars. He also produced an early TV version of A Christmas Carol in 1949, all part of a career that lasted for decades. Number 45, Peter Tomarken. Tomarken may not be the flashiest name on this list, but one cannot deny his entry into the annals of game show history by hosting Press Your Luck from 1983 to 1986, and even hosted the pilot of Whammy, the all-new Press Your Luck in the 2000s. He's also hosted Wipeout, Hitman, and Paranoia. Number 44, Howie Mandel. The king of the fist bump, Mandel was a cast member on St. Elsewhere and provided outstanding voice work on animated series The Muppet Babies and Bobby's World. Mandel has been the host of Deal or No Deal on network and syndicated since the show's US premiere in 2005, as well as the host of Take It All, Netflix's Bullshit the Game Show, and even the 2009 Game Show Awards. Number 43, Regis Philbin. Live with Regis and Kathie Lee may be the legendary TV star's claim to fame, but who can forget his solid run as the host of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the show that essentially brought primetime game shows back into the spotlight and then some. He also hosted $1 Million Password and America's Got Talent, among many other appearances over 7 decades. Number 42, Groucho Marx. One of the members of the great comedy troupe The Marx Brothers, Groucho Marx had a rather impressive renaissance in the 1950s as the host of You Bet Your Life. Although the show has experienced 3 revivals since its original version, the show is synonymous with Groucho as its host. Number 41, Alfonso Ribeiro. Although the actor will always be remembered for playing Carlton on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Ribeiro has had many hosting duties over his years, including GSN Live and Catch 21 on GSN, Spellmageddon on ABC, and of course, Dancing with the Stars. Number 40, Bill Layden. The former Marine during World War II was the popular host of the show It Could Be You, a show presented in the same vein as Queen for a Day. He also hosted shorter-lived shows such as Your First Impression and You're Putting Me On. Number 39, Bob Goen. The former host of Entertainment Tonight has also hosted many other shows including Perfect Match, Blackout, GSN Radio, and most notably, the final daytime version of Wheel of Fortune before the Great Game Show Massacre of 1991. Number 38, J.D. Roth. One of the most prolific television producers behind the camera, Roth has also very quietly hosted many shows ranging from Funhouse to GamePro TV to Sex Wars. For 6 seasons, Roth also hosted the Discovery Kids show Endurance, a children's version of Survivor. Number 37, Steve Harvey. The hilarious comedian has taken the classic show Family Feud to brand new levels. Having been the host since 2010, his version of the syndicated show and primetime celebrity versions bring in incredible ratings each and every time. The survey says that Steve Harvey's Family Feud might be the most popular version of one of the most popular shows in game show history. Number 36, Chris Hardwick. The son of bowling legend Billy Hardwick, Chris is likely best known for hosting The Wall on NBC, At Midnight on Comedy Central, and co-hosted the original version of Singled Out on MTV. He also hosted the web series All-Star Celebrity Bowling, which didn't quite make it to television, but was still entertaining. Number 35, Meredith Vieira. The longtime former moderator of ABC's The View hosted the syndicated version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire for around 1,800 episodes spanning 11 seasons. In addition to having her own short-lived daytime talk show in the 2010s, she can be seen today hosting 25 Words or Less, also in syndication. Number 34, Art Fleming. Who is the OG of Jeopardy? Fleming was the first to hold the hosting duties of the world's greatest trivia show, hosting 2 separate stints from 1964 to 1975, and again from 1978 to 1979. And keep an eye out for him in Airplane 2: The Sequel, where he shows up in a brief but enjoyable cameo, along with another host who will appear on this list a bit later. Number 33, Nick Cannon. One of the most prolific hosts in recent years, Cannon has helmed many shows including America's Got Talent and The Masked Singer. He may be a controversial figure in recent years, but his name is an easy sell for any game show in the modern era of television. Number 32, Bert Convy. The former professional baseball player helmed several successful shows in the 70s and 80s, including Tattletales, Super Password, and Win, Lose, or Draw. He also played a daredevil in Cannonball Run, where he is often seen replaced by a stunt performer. Number 31, David Ruprecht. It would be hard to imagine the Lifetime and PAX versions of Supermarket Sweep without Ruprecht, his colorful sweaters, and his friendly persona. One of the few new shows to survive the aforementioned Game Show Massacre of 1991, Ruprecht appeared in 1,111 episodes of the series, spanning 14 years. Number 30, Mark Summers. Also known for his work behind the camera, Summers beat out over 2,000 candidates to win the host of Nickelodeon's Double Dare. One of the dirtiest shows in television history, it is wild to know that Summers suffered from OCD during its entire run, but was willing to put himself through it for this opportunity of a lifetime. Number 29, Pat Finn. Although his most tenured experience comes from his years as a television weatherman and entertainment reporter, Finn has also served as the host of Shop Till You Drop and a remake of The Joker's Wild. And if you remember the short-lived but outstanding Scrabble Showdown, he was the executive producer of that show. Number 28, Ed McMahon. The legendary Johnny Carson sidekick and life insurance pitchman, McMahon's best-known hosting stint would be the master of ceremonies for the talent competition show Star Search, which aired from 1983 to 1995. He also hosted several shows in the 1960s, as well as countless appearances on network specials throughout his career. Number 27, Richard Dawson. It's almost impossible to say the name Family Feud without immediately linking it to its first host and the tone setter for every other host to follow, Richard Dawson. He is also known for his role as a cast member on Hogan's Heroes, his regular appearances on The Match Game, as well as his role in the ludicrous but amazing 1980s Arnold Schwarzenegger film The Running Man. Number 26. Art James. The long-tenured NBC announcer who also served as host for many games including Say When, Temptation, the Who, What, or Where game, and the short-lived American version of Catchphrase. And for those of you like I who are fans of early Kevin Smith films, he played the host of Truth or Date in Mallrats. Number 25. Art Linkletter. Two hosts named Art back-to-back? What are the odds? Anyway, the Canadian personality hosted the entertainment program People Are Funny on both radio and television from 1943 to 1960, as well as the show House Party. And for all of you board game fans out there, he was a major promoter of the game of life and even appeared on the game's $100,000 bills. Number 24. Jack Nars. One of the most notable hosts between the 1950s and the 1970s, Nars hosted Video Village, I'll Bet, Beat the Clock, among many other shows. He is likely best known for his stint as the host of the 1970s syndicated version of Concentration. Jack Nars is also the brother of another host who is going to appear a bit later on this list. Number 23. Gary Moore. The long-tenured host of I've Got a Secret and To Tell the Truth, Gary Moore also had runs working with show business legends at the time including Jimmy Durante and Durwood Kirby. A sign of an era long since forgotten, Moore actually dropped out of high school so he could apply himself towards his career. Needless to say, when it comes to finding a career in any field, times have changed quite a bit. Number 22. Ralph Edwards. Arguable for a spot on the television production Mount Rushmore, Ralph Edwards created and hosted the longtime classic game show Truth or Consequences on television and radio. In 1956, Edwards hired a young talented host to take over the show, and the rest, as they say, is history. Edwards also produced countless game shows including Name That Tune, It Could Be You, and Crosswits, along with Stu Billett, created the first ever real-life court show, The People's Court. Number 21. John Charles Daly. While his game show resume is impressive, hosting What's My Line for 17 years as well as 3 years of hosting It's News to Me, the Emmy Award winner might better be celebrated being a correspondent for CBS Radio, where he broke two major news stories, the bombing of Pearl Harbor as well as the death of President Roosevelt. He also hosted the PBS program Critique as well as briefly served as the director of Voice of America. Number 20. Peter Marshall. Easily, Peter Marshall was best known for hosting Hollywood Squares between 1966 and 1982. He later went on to host All-Star Blitz, Yahtzee, and The Reel-to-Reel Picture Show, one of the most infamous failed game shows of all time. But would he have been as famous if he went by his government name, Ralph Lecoq? Agree or disagree? Number 19. Alan Ludden. Personable, entertaining, charming, classy, and fun. All of these words are synonymous with Alan Ludden, who hosted Password and Password Plus, as well as a few other shows throughout the 60s and 70s. He also happened to be married to Betty White, who was a regular guest on his shows, and according to her, the best. She never remarried after his death. Number 18. Jeff Edwards. Edwards is one of the most prolific game show hosts in history and sadly is rarely ever mentioned when it comes to great hosts. Having said that, his resume speaks for itself. Hollywood's Talkin', The New Treasure Hunt, Jackpot, Shoot for the Stars, Starcade, the all-new Let's Make a Deal, and Chain Reaction were all shows that may not have the most replay today, but if a good solid host was needed, Edwards was right for the job. Number 17. Gene Rayburn. The king of filling in the blanks, Rayburn is certainly most known today as the one and only true host of The Match Game and its various versions throughout the 60s, 70s, and into the 80s. However, other shows he's hosted include Make the Connection, The Amateur's Guide to Love, and The Movie Masters. Number 16. Dick Clark. Widely considered to be one of the greatest television producers of all time, the world's oldest teenager is also the face of the pyramid, whether giving away $10,000 or $100,000. Clark hosted hundreds of fun, suspenseful episodes. He was also the host of American Bandstand, Bloopers and Practical Jokes, and rang in every New Year on ABC with Dick Clark's Rockin' Eve. Number 15. Jim Lang. Years before Tinder, no one else could come close to putting together eligible bachelors and bachelorettes quite as well. Lang hosted The Dating Game for approximately 12 years and also hosted Name That Tune, Triple Threat, and $1 Million Chance of a Lifetime. Number 14. Jim Perry. The television legend and longtime host of the Miss Canada pageant had an extensive resume, including being the most remembered hosts of Card Sharks and Sale of the Century. He also hosted many unsold pilots before finding and enjoying retirement in the 1990s. Number 13. Bud Collyer. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's Bud Collyer, the legendary voice of Superman, as well as the host of Beat the Clock and To Tell the Truth. Collier also hosted the shows Break the Bank and Winner Take All, among several others. Number 12. John Reed King. With a legendary career spanning almost 30 years on both radio and television, King hosted many shows during his time on the air. He starred in Mrs. Goes A-Shopping, Beat the Clock, and What's My Bid, thus making him one of the earliest pioneers of game shows on television. Number 11. Monty Hall. There is no Let's Make a Deal without the original deal master himself. Hall's career began in the 50s and spanned for decades. In addition to offering What's Behind Door Number 1, Monty Hall also hosted Video Village and Beat the Clock, among several other shows. But he'll always be synonymous with making deals, even appearing sporadically on the show as a nonagenarian. Number 10. Jack Barry. One of the early TV legends, Barry's career took quite a nosedive after the quiz show scandals of the 1950s, but after some true hustle and dedication, like a phoenix from the ashes, he had a rather spectacular rebound, hosting shows such as The Joker's Wild, Break the Bank, and The Generation Gap, becoming the face of an era for many loyal game show TV fans of the 70s and 80s. Number 9. Dennis James. One of the unsung heroes of television, Dennis James had a career spanning 7 decades, hosting many shows including Cash and Carry, Name That Tune, and The Nighttime Price is Right. He's also the pioneer of the telethon, hosting the United Cerebral Palsy Association telethon in New York for 47 years, along with many other telethons across the United States. Number 8. Bob Eubanks. No one got to know married couples more than the man who hosted the Newlywed Game, as well as 3 separate revivals between 1966 and 2000. The former legendary music promoter also hosted shows such as Trivia Trap, Card Sharks, and Powerball the Game Show, and has one of the most famed voices in radio and TV history. Number 7. Tom Kennedy. One of the most recognizable prolific game show hosts to appear on television between the 1950s to the 1980s, Tom Kennedy was always a safe bet that he would do a great job hosting shows such as Name That Tune, Body Language, The Nighttime Price is Right, and took over for an ailing Alan Ludden on Password Plus. Kennedy, real name James Nars, is indeed the younger brother of fellow game show host Jack Nars, who appeared earlier on this list. A real hosting family if there ever was one. Number 6. Chuck Woolery. One of the most popular and notable game show hosts from the 1970s to the 2000s, Woolery's resume featured the most well-respected shows including Wheel of Fortune, Love Connection, Greed, and 2 of my favorite shows of all time, Scrabble and Lingo. His legacy as a game show host should be considered one of the most outstanding of more recent generations. Number 5. Wink Martindale. Recognizable through 7 decades of television, the incomparable Wink Martindale has hosted many great shows, including Tic-Tac-Dough, High Rollers, Gambit, and GSN's Instant Recall as recently as 2010. Today, his YouTube channel contains many clips of game shows and episodes never before seen, and is quite fun to visit whenever new content is uploaded. Number 4 is a duo, Pat Sajak and Vanna White. In late 1981, then local weatherman and former Armed Forces radio DJ Pat Sajak got the bold call to replace Chuck Woolery as the host of Wheel of Fortune. This was in part due to his quirky sense of humor and enjoyable persona. Along with the show's co-host Vanna White, they became one of the most iconic pairs on television, either network or syndicated. Although Ryan Seacrest took over hosting duties for Sajak in 2024, it is impossible not to think of the show without thinking of these two icons of the small screen. Number 3. Bill Cullen. With a broadcasting career spanning 6 decades and a seamless transition from radio to television, Bill Cullen became one of the most prolific hosts in game show history. His shows include The Original Price is Right, Blockbusters, I Guess, The $25,000 Pyramid, Child's Play, Hot Potato, among so many others. In addition, he appeared on many other shows as a guest, all while hiding his very limited mobility due to his suffering from polio as a kid, something we really take for granted nowadays. One of the truest inspirations, not just as a broadcaster, but as a human. Number 2. Alex Trebek. A class act in television from his earliest days in Canada, Alex Trebek's legacy in the United States is one of very few hosts deemed completely irreplaceable. His hosting duties include The Wizard of Odds, Pitfall, Double Dare, Classic Concentration, and To Tell the Truth. Oh yeah, and then there was his 36 years as the host of Jeopardy from 1984 until his death in 2020. Alex Trebek was one of the absolute finest talents to ever grace the stage, so much that Stage 10 where Jeopardy is taped is now forever known as the Alex Trebek stage. Although Ken Jennings is doing a fine enough job as the current host of Jeopardy, there is no question that Trebek's shoes absolutely can never be filled. Before I get to number 1, I wanted to add several names that were not on the original list. Guy Fieri. The restaurateur known for diners, drive-ins, and dives among countless other Food Network shows was the host of Minute to Win It in 2010. Apollo Ono. The legendary speed skater went to continue hosting Minute to Win It for GSN in 2013. He was also the winner of Season 4 of Dancing with the Stars. Hugh Downs. The television and radio broadcasting pioneer whose career spanned 8 decades was the host of Concentration from 1958 to 1969. Downs is also best known for hosting The Today Show from 1962 to 1971, as well as hosting 2020 from 1978 to 1999. He's also a Guinness World Record holder for the most hours on a commercial television network. Nipsey Russell. The first African-American performer to appear as a regular panelist on game shows, Russell is widely known for his appearances on classic shows like To Tell the Truth, Match Game, and Pyramid, among so many others. He was the host of the new Juvenile Jury, as well as Your Number's Up in 1985. He also starred in an unsold pilot for Jackpot. Vicki Lawrence. The comedian known for her work on The Carol Burnett Show and later Mama's Family, Lawrence was also the host of the daytime NBC version of Win, Lose, or Draw, in which she was nominated for a Daytime Emmy. And the number 1 greatest game show host of all time, Bob Barker. The term game show host is synonymous with the man who hosted Truth or Consequences for 18 consecutive years, and of course The Price is Right for 35 more. Bob Barker's commanding and exciting stage presence and familiar, tender voice gave us a show that transcended every other game show of its respective time, being the only terrestrial network game show to live through the 1990s and beyond. Being a contestant on the show wasn't about just winning prizes, it was also about sharing the stage with the legendary host, an asset which is equally as valuable. The Price is Right will always be known for Bob's contributions both in front of and behind the camera. Thus, after eliminating over 100 other names from competition, the winner has been declared, and thus Bob Barker will top this list as the all-time greatest game show host in United States television history.